coming up to the top of the hour to welcome everyone to our webinar, which is Best Practices in Improving Call Center Performance. So we've got a kind of, I think, a very nice take on it in terms of the agenda. Delighted to welcome back two speakers who've previously spoke on our webinar program.
The first one is what makes a good customer experience, and we've had various answers offered in terms of net promoter score and customer effort and so on. And I think the what we can now understand is that it's a bit more complicated than that. Isn't life always a bit more complicated? But there are some understandable components. The first is actually, does the customer get their job done? I think a very important thing for us to understand is that people don't ring contact centers for fun. Well, if they do, you've got some very funny customers. But they are ringing you because they've got a problem and they think you can be part of the solution. So the fundamental question for customers is, did I get my job done, or did I make progress in getting that done, and did I make as much progress as I expected and hoped for? The second question is, how hard did I have to work in order to get that done? And there's a kind of, yes, I got my job done, but I am now a quivering wreck, and you know, that's the end of my working day because I'm exhausted. We want the job done, but we need it to be reasonably easy, reasonably convenient. There's a third element, which is, if we talk to people, we want them to be essentially pleasant, polite, warm, understanding. So the human contact element, if it occurs, is important. Of course, you can actually kind of bracket that and say, well, sometimes we don't have any human contact. That's fine. There's a fourth thing which I think we have completely lost sight of, which is that when you ask people about their experience, they are not statisticians who do a neat averaging of the 15 minutes of the call. What they are struck by is the theatre of the experience. And the theatre, broadly speaking, is what happened right at the beginning. First impressions count. Was there somewhere where they went, wow, that's brilliant, you know, thank you, and what happens right at the end? Recency is a very powerful driver of what we recall about experience. What we're not good at those things in the contact center. What we seem to be able to do is to generate turn-offs. And turn-offs are the oh no moments, the things that go wrong and the customer goes, I can't believe that. When you are listening back to that call or that transcript, you're putting your head in your hands and going, oh no, oh no. The problem with these negative experiences is they will wipe everything else out. They have about 9 to 10 times the power of an equivalent positive experience. There's something very funny about this equation, which is that in a way, getting it right doesn't help you very much. When if you get the task done, you just say, yep, that's what I expected, that was pretty good. It was easy, yeah, that was what I expected, that was pretty good. These things really kick in when they go wrong. So if you like, when customer surveys come in, they're very often because the person didn't get their job done, you made it hard work, the agent wasn't pleasant, the theatre wasn't there, or it was bad theatre, or there was an oh no moment. So in a way, when things go well, this is a series of that's okay. When things go badly and you fail on each of those, that's when you really remember the customer experience. Now, I had a personal experience yesterday. Don't people always talk about contact centers? But for a particular reason, I have to get myself to the Isle of Harris in the Outer Hebrides from London by tomorrow midday. I have to tell you that it was a nightmare. I had to book flights, I had to book hotels, I had to get car hire, and so on. I tried doing this through an extremely large international airline called British Airways, and I didn't even get the first stage done. Their systems defeated me. Right at the other end of the process, I talked to a little hotel on the west coast of the Isle of Harris, facing 2,000 miles of the Atlantic, and talked to a woman who said, yes, I've got a room, it will cost you X. Can I ask you why you're only staying one night? I told her, and she said, oh, well, I'll do it at a different price for you then, and gave me a wow moment. And when I said to her, do you need my credit card? She said, no, no, don't worry about that. Now, what that taught me was that there is a baseline for a good experience. That is, it should be like talking to a dedicated, smart, warm, empathic, trustworthy human being. And every time we put technologies in place, we should be saying, is this at least as good as that or better?
Yeah.
And if it isn't, is there a trade-off which makes it worthwhile? So I'll leave you with that thought in terms of what is this stuff called customer experience that we're trying to create. The second thing is that actually the real problem about the channel is switching from one channel to another. And if I just give you an example of this, this is the London Tube Map. And what's interesting about the London Tube Map, which in a sense we all know but haven't realized what's happening, is that what it maps is the interchanges between channels. Why? Because those are the critical points. These are the points where it's hard work, where you're likely to go wrong, where you've got to make decisions, and so on, where you can get lost. If you think about people's tube experiences, they don't notice the bit between the stations. So I think one of the things we must focus on in this new world of multi-channel is the switches between, as well as, and indeed more than, the channels themselves. Everybody's strengths and weaknesses. There are lots of things human beings are not good at. Here's a list. We're not good at detail. We keep making mistakes. We're not good at repetition and doing the same thing time after time after time. We're not good at statistics and calculation, at actually following rules brilliantly in terms of algorithms. We're not good at multitasking. That's another thing we're not good at. We're not good at scaling up and doing this thousands and thousands of times. And actually, after about 20, 25 minutes, we get tired. We're not good at 24/7. Isn't it amazing? Those are exactly the things that machines are good at. So I think there's a very, very simple, as I said, frame for thinking about technologies is what bit of the task is this about? Is it a task that looks like something a machine is going to be good at? Great, let's do that. Is this a bit of the task that looks like a human being is going to be good at? Right, let's use a human being. And let's recognize and reward the human beings for the things that they are good at.
And one of the first challenge is what we call shared identifiers, because each channel, typically the data will be in different places anyway, and in each place the way you uniquely identify a customer will be different. So one of the first things we do with our customer engagement analytics solution is to help organizations connect up a single customer across these different profiles. So for example, if I go onto my mobile phone account and I authenticate myself and log in to see my balance, I will be able to tell the cookie or the IP address of that customer. And then if the next day I go in and just browse the website to make a complaint but I don't authenticate, NICE can still identify that customer, so I can start to connect up web journeys. And once I've authenticated that customer, once I have their account details, I can find all their information about their name, their address, and I can connect that up to when they call in and connect that up to when they use the app. So the key is to be able to link that customer together, and as you can see from that build, you can create a holistic customer understanding. Link that single customer across many different journeys and then append the really rich data. So now I identify my customer, I can add segment, tenure, location, credit class to those unique IDs that I have. There's two I want to call out. One is what we call direct, indirect, and inferred voice of the customer, which means to really effectively coach an agent on the voice of the customer, you need three inputs. One is, did the agent provide great service during the call? And that's what interaction analytics is great at. The second is, did the customer perceive it was a good call, which is what Guy talked about earlier. You have to measure that. And thirdly, did the agent take the right actions, which is the inferred data that comes out of your data warehouse. So for example, you could say, did the agent promise a callback? Speech analytics. How did the customer feel about that? Surveys. And did the agent actually put the callback in their calendar? Because often you can have a great experience which the customer thought was great, and when they were surveyed 24 hours later, but they never called them back.
3 more bites of advice here. One was in from Michael, just saying, a wow moment to me would be when the agent immediately takes ownership for solving my problem. Laura's got a tip that says, we assess calls every week and provide feedback to each agent. Feedback consists of the agent listening to their call in a separate room with the coach, and we ask that they provide feedback on how they have done. We will then coach the agents to help them improve. We have found that relaxing on the handler's AHT has increased motivation and call quality. And a final tip from Rachel, we had a call script which was word for word what they had to say. In recent months we have changed this to a call guidance with just bullet points of the key points they need to cover and discuss. This way they can put it in their own words and they're not reading off a sheet, which was apparent through their voice. And I think that's all we've got time for now. John T, back to you.
Thank you very much. And I think those last 2 points there, I think, are indicators, Guy, that people are starting to relax on the factory method,
Yes.
average handling time and reading off a script, and starting to bring some of the theatre, bring some of the emotion back into.
And accepting variation, and accepting the need to give agents to be empowered to make real-time decisions. You know, in terms of what they're hearing on the call.